Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ridavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadashadhyayini Ambatvam Anusandatami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishana Buddhe Pulla Ravindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetam Rudaduhe Namaha Mukham karoti vacharam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande paramananda madhavam yam brahma varunendra rudra marutaha sunvanti divyai savaihi vedai sanghapada kramopanishadaihi gayanti yam samagaha ध्यानावस्थिततत्कटेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः Mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. So today is literally we are finishing the last last shlokas of the 8th chapter. So today will be more or less like a review session. We will chant all the all the shlokas in this chapter. We will also summarize the essential points. And I would also like you to, mention what is it about the 8th chapter that really appealed to all of you. So just as a recap and to bring out really the essential aspect of the 8th chapter, I wanted to mention that, as we started on this journey of the second part of Bhagavad Gita, in 7th chapter, we understood what true religion was. And now in this 8th chapter, we are actually trying to find out what is the relevance of it really in our present life. So far, we think about religion as something which which helps us gain what we want, maybe even transport us to a better life and everything. But here it is about transporting you into, or transporting all of us into a new realm of being, which is, we call this as an after death, you know. So 8th chapter is really talking about life after death. I mean, so when in Sanatana Dharma, in a Hindu religion, we talk about after death and where is it really mentioned, you can confidently say it is in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that it talks about this aspect of life after death, because as we have said always in our philosophy, we look at ourselves not just as this physical clothes that we are wearing. When I say physical clothes, I mean our physical body, but we are essentially more than that. We are actually a bundle of our vasanas. We are a bundle of our mind, intellect. which nobody can see. We are actually that, but we take on this different clothes. And that is how this eighth chapter is telling us that, hey, you are taking different clothes at different times. How long are you continuously going to be in this kind of an inert life? Don't you want to lead a very much more dynamic life? And what do we mean by dynamic? Is really understanding what my purpose of life is and what is it that drives me. So that's what this eighth chapter is really about in a simple sense, but at the highest level, it is taking us to understand really that I'm actually way beyond all this body, mind, intellect. And that's what the last two shlokas where we focus on. So, from a reflection point of view, I just want to also explain that we as jivas, we're helplessly coming into this world, we leave this world, and just like how we go to sleep and we magically get up, that's how it works. So that is why in the shloka 5, which is really Gita's asking, you know, what do you, I mean, this is for sure, it's going to happen to all of us. And that is when I'm going to give up this physical clothes, that is my body, what is it that is going to drive me as a thought into the next body? What is going to be that last? So, antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati na asti atra samshayaha. So, yam yam bhavam, we talked about this shloka about whatever we think, that is going to be the last thought. And for us, we can never decide when that last day is going to be. And I don't know if I mentioned last time this true story, which is Ashok's cousin brother. His daughter literally went to the gym, 24-year-old, and she just goes to the gym and she collapses right there. She has a heart attack. It was just so sudden, so 24-year-old, I mean, hale and hearty, you could never even imagine something like this happening, right? So we just have no idea at all when our last day is going to be, So so in the eighth chapter, it is really, really telling us, so how do you want to lead your life?
So
That is
did
what.
she die? Did she die?
Yeah, immediately collapsed, heart attack.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Later, Geeta, I'll touch base with you. Maybe you may know them also, So that.
Recently? Did it happen recently?
Yeah, it was in the papers and all that also. If you just
Recently,
Google,
like
if you
week.
Google 24-year-old Dr. Kripak, you
Oh.
will see the information. It came
Okay,
out in the
okay,
news and all that. So,
okay.
so the idea is we have no control over what our last day is going to be. But we do have control over what my last thought can be. That is for sure. And the way we can really have the control over it is really every moment fill it with really noble thoughts, right? Every moment think about goodness to everybody. Every moment think about how I'm living the life not for myself, but for others. Because, when really the order comes from when Lord Yama is coming, to take this physical body out, he's just going to drag the physical thing. That's all. But he's not going to take the sukshma sharira, like we say, and there's vasanas and all that. That's not what he's going to say. At that point, I cannot say, wait. I still have so many things that I want to finish. And interestingly, I was having this conversation with my brother just on Sunday. And he said, we were just gently having a conversation, do you really want to take a next birth and everything? He said, yes, absolutely, I want to do that. I said, why? He said, well, there are so many things I still haven't fulfilled, and I don't know when, until how long I live. So I do want to take a birth to fulfill all this. But the thing is that Yama is not going to listen. He's going to take this body away. And, really, sometimes who really cares about this? Nobody actually, we think that, everyone is going to worry about when I die and everything, but nobody really bothers about this at all, really. I mean, I'm not being very negative in that sense. What I'm saying is, yes, there will be thoughts for some time, but after some time, so I need to worry about myself. That the whole point is, I need to worry about who I am, how I'm leading this life, because I have no control over till the last day. So the whole idea is to live as if today is the last day. And many Mahatmas actually have said that when you go to bed at night, again, I might sound very pessimistic here, and it's like the end of the day for you, you're going to go to sleep. So this thing that Mahatma says that when you go to bed at night, do not expect to get up tomorrow morning. Consider today to be the last. You know, then if you really get up in the morning, you feel, wow, I have another day. This is such a bonus, and we'll start the day with a lot of gratitude, you know. So that's the whole idea. So whenever I go to bed, I have to think, okay, I've done everything that I want for today. I have no debts at all for tomorrow. Anything, whether it's material, psychological, emotional, nothing. I have actually nothing at all. I'm a very contented person. And if I do this, then I can actually end the day. And it is such a stress-free buster, actually, if I can do that. By end of the day, just say that I've tied everything, I'm done, and you start off the day with a very good feeling. And, so this is the kind of life that 8 chapters really, really, in a very practical sense, asking us to do, because for many reasons, but any questions, I'll just pause at this point and ask, is do you get that sense from this chapter, which is very important? And that's why I started off with a reflection on this thing.
Okay. I don't know if somebody else can ask. I have a question, but I will ask. Anybody else? Okay. You said we sleep. I know it's very hard to think that we have fulfilled whatever we had to do for that time and then go to bed. But however, if you don't do that and go to bed, and if you don't get up next day morning, what difference it makes? You're anyway gone.
That's true.
So,
and,
I don't know. I'm just throwing up.
It has gone in the sense of, let's take this example of a very practical example, and I can say that to all of you who are in America, which is sometimes, you work in this company, and this happens in America very often. You work in this company and you're doing so much, okay? And it's a Friday. It's a Friday, the 13th or whatever. And at 4 o'clock, your boss comes and says, guess what? You got to pack up. We are firing you. Okay. Now, this guy would have had so much of thoughts on what he wanted to do for the company and everything, right? And here the man is saying that, pack up, you got to leave. What does he do? Do you think that his whatever he wanted to achieve in this company, is that going to be done with? No. He's actually going to have that thought, you know what, I really want to do so much for this company. And guess what? They're firing me. I don't care. I'm going to go to the next company and I'm going to prove myself that I can do so much. I can even compete against them. Now that I know how these people are, I'm going to pull them down. Whatever. I'm just giving this as an example. So the thought will not leave him, So that will never leave. And we may say, what difference does it make? Because we are identified with the physical self, but we have seen this. Because we're identified with the physical self, we are not unable to accept that this will happen when I die. But I gave you this practical example that is happening. How did this guy decide that he's going to do so much in this next company? How did that happen? It happened because he had the thought, and I cannot see a thought. The thought is not a physical, like a snowflake or something. It doesn't come in front of me and say, this is my thought. It is there within ourselves, right? If I can believe this example, or if I can trust this example, you can most definitely trust the fact that when we die, that is happening. Because where will the thoughts go ultimately? It has to be somewhere, right?
You're talking with respect to jnana, okay? But when tonight, if I have to go to bed, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have done. Those are all physical things which I am talking about. I wouldn't have finished. I'll say, okay, I'll do that tomorrow, and we go to bed. So if at that time, if we go away, it doesn't matter, right? But I think you're referring to the, what to say, jnana, I mean, what we do with our mind, intellect, and the vasanas and all that. That's what you're referring to, I think.
But what drives that action? What drives your physical action, that you want to do this, you want to do that, and everything? It's only that mind and intellect equipment. It's there in your mind that you want to do this, this, and this, which is a physical action.
Correct, exactly. So exactly. If I don't do that, it doesn't matter, right?
Well, there is always that sense of incompleteness. I can give you another example, which is again a very, very simple, practical example. How many of you do Sudoku? You do? Okay. Yeah, I do. And how many of us complete a Sudoku?
There are various levels. We do try.
Correct. So when you go to the next level, it is very hard to complete a Sudoku. So what do? I'm unable to complete it. But then the lingering thing on my mind always is, I have to finish it. I have to finish it somehow. But I'm unable to do it. I keep coming back. I keep coming back because I did not complete something. Right? So that thought will always be there in our mind, even with not just the physical things, but with a lot of mental things. Yeah, Anand, you want to say something? I'm just opening this up a little bit because that is the relevance of 8th chapter. There are only 2 shlokas to finish, which is very easy. We'll be done with it. But it is important to get the essence of this aspect. And that's why I put 3 or 4 sentences today. And we wanted to make sure we discuss that. Yeah. Yeah. Anand,
Yeah. Just in those lines, if there is some unfinished tasks are there, and then, a person leaves without finishing them, right? Leaves the world without finishing them. I mean, if the vasanas, they're strong, like, okay, example, somebody thinks, I want to be an architect. And then, so without becoming, the person expired, then it's so strong that the vasana is so strong, then he's takes next birth, then that's what is going to be. So correct. I think that's something related to the unfinished tasks, or what happens. That's my thoughts basing on some of the studies.
You're right. So when the vasanas are really strong, it will happen. And we see the evidence of it in our real life. That's the whole point I'm coming to, is how we're leading our life today. How are we watching our thoughts? Are we really directing our thoughts in such a way that it is fulfilling a purpose in life? And that's why I really, when I talk to my teenagers here too, I tell them, what is the goal? What is your goal? What is your purpose? You got to hitch whatever our thoughts are towards that goal, and higher the goal, the higher the goal, it is easy, I would say, to not get distracted with things. So that's the whole. So the last thought is really, it's the maturity, I would say, by which we are approaching our life. So even in this life, or even in our day to day, how I'm approaching my work, how I'm approaching my day, how I'm approaching my relationship with everybody. In all this, when there is a high level of maturity, that will really drive the quality of our life, and the quality of life leading to much less stress.
Yo.
Yeah, go ahead, Meena.
Okay, so two things I wanted to say in this. Like, one is you said the boss firing out an employee.
Mm-hmm.
So the employee, you said he must be thinking he wanted to do so much for the company.
Mm-hmm.
So if he thinks this way, like again and again, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, everything is for good. Whatever has happened is good. Whatever is happening is good. Whatever is going to happen is. So if he thinks that way, okay, whatever we had in our mind to do for this company, I mean, we can do it to the next employer.
Mm-hmm.
If that maturity was there in his mind, then definitely he will not feel it.
Correct.
And then what Gita said, I mean, I have not fulfilled my so many things, and if a person passes away, so
Mm-hmm.
every day, when you go to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
we should not think that, oh, I have so much of in my bucket list, I have to finish that, I have to finish that. Oh, this day, when we go to bed, if we have that maturity, if we go to bed, okay, so whatever has happened today is everything is for good. So let me have a peaceful sleep. If a
Mm-hmm.
person has that in his mind, so even if he passes away during the sleep, I mean, it's not going to matter for him because his mind is calm and he's matured.
Right.
So as he said, if we have some matured thinking in our life, and I'm not worrying about, oh, I had to feed my granddaughter, I have to do this, I have to do that, and all that. There's no end to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
mean, it's all in our mind, fulfillment and all that. If we
Mm-hmm.
think that yes, I'm settled, I'm fulfilled, it's done. So
Mm-hmm.
even if the person passes away just like that, definitely nothing is going to happen. That's
Correct.
what I felt.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what, in a sense, you started off by saying, Meena, is Bhagavad Gita. If the person is reading Bhagavad Gita, then the person will
Yes,
have that maturity of thought, and that is
100%, 100%.
yes,
Yes.
exactly, exactly.
Gratitude
So,
also.
yeah, what does that mean?
I said gratitude also. When God says, in this chapter especially, says, I am in everything.
Correct.
I am this, I'm this. So that shows that we are doing
Absolutely.
nothing. Ultimately, He's the pilot. We have
Yes.
to give our life, they say, not door, unke haath mein, like give your everything, and He's doing it. He's so, and that every night, if you have that attitude of gratefulness for everything, gratitude,
Correct.
that helps a lot. That brings a lot of peace. And in this chapter especially, he tells us that what will be your destination is your last thought. If you
Mhm.
think about me, you'll come to me, you'll attain me. So
Mhm.
that's a big takeaway from this. Like, it's a big neon sign we should put somewhere, that think
That's right.
about it, Lord. If we can do it, it's easier said than done, but if we
Correct.
can try.
Correct. Very nice. Very nice.
As you said in
Meenu.
sloka number 5 in this, that's what he says. Even if you
Mhm.
don't think about me, that's what Lord Krishna says. Even if you don't
Mhm.
think about me during your entire life, at least at the time of death, if you remember me,
Mhm.
then definitely you'll reach me. So,
Correct.
I mean, we have so many options Lord Krishna has given us. So if we
Mhm.
follow just one or two, definitely I think we'll reach
Mhm.
100%.
Exactly.
And he
Exactly.
says that even in heaven is not permanent. Even Lord Brahman abode is also not permanent. So we have to go where it is permanent. Nothing
Yes.
else. So,
Yes. So don't stop in the rest areas. Just keep going, keep driving.
Mhm.
Very, very beautiful. Yeah. So gratitude is the ultimate thing. And from what you both echoed beautifully also is, even though it says it's the last thought, but I can say for today, before I go to sleep, my last thought is before I go to sleep, right? So we always say, what is the bottom line? What is the last thought? At every moment, I can think about, okay, that is my last thought. You know, Like even now, it is 7:30 or whatever for me here, 7:30 a.m. I can see today, this is my last thought. What is my last thought? I have to be grateful to that Bhagwan who has given me such a great opportunity to give me a healthy body, 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 eyes, which can see, which I can speak. How many people have that opportunity to have that, right? And to have a same thing. And very, very important is he has put us in a position where we can listen to his glory. Think about it, right? In the whole world, how many people really understand about who is God? First of all, that itself is a question mark. Second thing is this kind of knowledge which will take you to him. And the third thing is that we are studying that, which itself indicates that, in some sense, we are fulfilled with a lot of other things. So we are able to focus our attention on this knowledge. So we have come such a long way. So I really have that gratitude for giving me even that thought that I can study this. So beautiful what both of you brought. I was just
And
reveling. Yeah, go ahead.
And in 13th sloka, he says, a person who says Om, that itself, if a person who says that syllable Brahman, a person
Correct.
who remembers this during death, definitely they attain the supreme goal. So in this chapter, each and every sloka,
Correct.
something or the other, it's very good information, and if you follow at least a few, definitely
Correct.
I think we will reach the
Correct.
supreme.
Exactly.
Om Egaksharam.
Om iti ek aksharam brahma. Vyaharan mam anusmaran. Yeah. So continuously.
Dekam sayati paramam gatim.
Paramam gatim. Yeah. So yati paramam gatim. So that will be the final abode.
Yes.
Just chanting Om. Again, he's trying to bring about this aspect. Our Sanatana Dharma has all these options and choices. On one hand, I can just go to Lord Venkateshwara and Tirupati. I can put my effort and energy to go there and do that. Or on the other hand, I can stay at home and then stay at home and keep chanting Om. So, that is the ultimate. Om is the simplest aksharam, which represents that highest truth. So
he has given every small ways.
So yeah, go ahead, Preeti.
This is Sharda here. I've been listening with Preeti's phone. While listening to your thing, two things occur to me. One is always we, like what the gurus have said, always live in present, and that way we won't be sorry for missing anything as long as we are thinking about the higher self and living in present, not brooding over the past and imagining fearing about the future. And then like there is a comment saying that do what you do tomorrow, today, and then do today's now. So that way, try to be done with as much as you can and keep moving forward. So that way we won't be, finally, we should not be sorry for anything that if our life abruptly ends, kind of thing. So that's what I thought I'll share.
Very nice, Sharda. Spoken so beautifully. That is what you echoed is Kabir Das Doha, right? Kal kare jo aaj kar. I think Meenu knows that very well, right?
Yeah, aaj kare so ab pal mein pralay hoegi, bahuri karoge kab. Like in 1 minute dies. So yeah, very nicely said.
Beautiful.
Very, very nicely said.
Yeah.
That be in present moment. Very nice.
Correct.
Even in sloka 22, he says, one can attain me with true devotion. He's a satisfied person and everything is within himself. That is what I was trying to say, a fulfilled person. In 822, Purusha Saparaf Partha Bhaktya Lapyas Twadanyaya tvananyaya yasyan tani bhutani yena sharvam idam datham.
Correct.
So everything is within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he says.
Exactly.
Very nice. Oh my God, each and every sloka you can keep reading.
Correct. Exactly. And then couple other important points this chapter addresses is this question of, really, if we want to know which, imagine again, see these great rishis, Mahatmas, how did they even research into something which you cannot see? How sukshma must have been their intellect to understand what is happening when a soul departs from the body. There is enough information in our Shastras to show how the soul departs, from which part of the body it departs, everything. Bhagavad Gita and all the Upanishads, they don't deal with this, but there are many other Puranas, they all talk about it, right? So the only thing that Bhagavad Gita here will say is that the soul departs. Imagine the soul departing from the body, but then something has to carry that soul, right? What is it? What is carrying that soul? It is basically nothing but our own thoughts. Our own thoughts, which is in the form of any kind of desires or actions. Whatever, that is the one which is actually carrying that soul, out of the body. And in my mind, suddenly this picture of a kite came. When a kite is flying, what is holding that kite? It is a thread, So that thread is how this whole thoughts are really going, So that is what here he talks about. The soul basically departs. There are two paths for it. One is, he says the Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. The Uttarayana is the path of the sun, and the Dakshinayana is the path of the moon. And we know that, the sun is brighter path, it's full of light, and it is the light of knowledge and everything, whereas the moon is how our mind is. Our mind is full of thoughts, desires, and that tends to pull us down. And then, he talks about how both these paths are actually eternal. Eternal meaning that, the sun path will always take you, that is a path which will ultimately take you to Krama Mukti and, Jiva Mukti, all that. Whereas the other path, where we are in the circle also keeps on going all the time. It is up to us to decide which of these two eternal paths we want to take. So that part of it was also described in 8th chapter. And then 8th chapter, of course, talks about really the nature of the Lord. The Kaving Puranam, Anushasitaram, Anoraniyam, which is, let's see, I think it's the 9th shloka. Kaving Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyam Anusmaredhyaha Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasaf Parasthat. It talks about all this nature of God, and that keeps coming up almost in every chapter. And the way it is introduced is based upon the context in which, he talks about, he gives that. So that is that part of it we touched, which is getting into even more subtlest aspects. And this is different from the 7th chapter, where 7th chapter, he talked about God being the essence of everything. Rasoham apsu kaunteya, all those shlokas, and the essence, the sapidity in water, and the essence of the bijam, all this bijam meaning the seed, all this was discussed in 7th chapter, but here he goes into much deeper. Then actually the karma theory is very, very importantly, beautifully discussed about how, whenever the time comes for the human being to depart, for the jiva to depart, the thought which he leaves actually is governed by the kind of karmas that person has done in the body, right? In that body, in that life. So the karma theory actually is, in some sense, is a little complex. Complex in the sense, on one hand, we know that we are responsible for our actions. We also know that we have to do things without any expectation without any expectation of for the fruits. Whatever comes, to accept it. Now, why? Why does he say this, And the reason for that is because we are connected to everybody. Up to the 6th chapter, we talked about the individual, but here he brings about the connection with everyone and then says that every action that I think in my mind not only affects me, but it affects the people around me. And depending upon the strength of my action, it can affect more people around me. For example, let's say I'm the CEO of a company. If I'm the CEO of a company, every small action that I do or I don't do has a far-reaching consequence. But as an individual, myself also, depending upon the intensity of my thought, okay, whether it's good or bad, it has an effect not only on me, but all the people around me also. It all depends upon that intensity. So we are actually a cosmic oriented individuals, and we don't recognize that. But when something doesn't happen for us, we immediately, start this blame game or anything, all that. But when something good happens, of course, we don't necessarily think that people around me have been responsible for my good things also. So that's the complexity of karma theory, which I'm trying to also, for us to understand. Earlier, when we talked about karma, it was all about my action. But in context of the 8th chapter, I have to think about me as an individual in the presence of everyone, how my actions are affecting my own consequences. So whatever, when I said the soul departs with all these thoughts, it carries those karmas also. The effects of everything that I've done, how it has affected me and my environment and everything. So all this is an aspect, also something this 8th chapter very subtly is bringing in to show that be careful of what your last thought is, be careful of what your actions are in this world, because you're taking that big baggage with you, which you'll be unpacking later in your next life. So before you unpack anything, make sure what you have put in this baggage. So this whole karma theory, at some point, I want to really talk about, at least with the youngsters, because for us, many of our thing is already over. Our impact on the world is much less when compared to our youngsters. So this is something to think about. Any questions or thoughts on that part of it? So it's almost like, it's like a silkworm. A silkworm builds a cocoon around it, right? And in this cocoon, you are actually building that much amount of desires or karmas as you're taking it. So that needs to be thought about. So that sort of kind of wraps up. I wanted to bring those 4 different points from this 8th chapter. And so from in shloka number 23, we had seen this path, the 2 paths were starting to be described. He basically says about the 2 things. And then in 24, he talks about the bright path or the Uttarayana and Agnish Jyoti Shuklaha Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vida Janaha. So only people who really have understood this knowledge, they go on the bright path because that leads them further. So here everything is filled with light. That's what we said. Then in Shloka 25, he actually talks about this other path, which is the path filled with smoke and, which is a dark path. And here, following this, he returns back. What he's trying to say is the person returns back to, and here, the word yogi is used primarily mainly because this person is a much evolved person, but he still hasn't reached that ultimate. And so he needs to come back to fulfill his last karmas and everything. And then in 26, he basically talks about how these 2 paths are eternal, as we talked about. One leading you further, but the other one, you keep coming back. So then the last two shlokas, which I wanted to just wrap it up, which is Naite Shruti Partha Jana Yogi Muhyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjana. So he says, an intelligent, smart person, again here, intelligent and smart from a point of view of the knowledge. Here, who's the yogi here? Yogi who has understood. Again, this is a person who is not having a blind faith or anything. This person has truly understood this knowledge, and he, knowing these two paths, no yogi is deluded anymore. Therefore, be steadfast in yoga. So the key word here is yoga, which is understand the purpose of life, understand how one can be integrated and move on. So that's the idea here. And he says, at all times be steadfast. Again, that last thought doesn't come very easily, but it can happen only when every moment I lead a very, very alert life. I understand this chapter. I lead that alert life of not allowing any temptations to tempt me, and then also leading a good life and not, hurting anybody. Like in 12th chapter, there is a beautiful word, Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. Sarva Bhuta, with every being, Hite Rataha. I just love people. I have that compassion. So that's what he's trying to say. And to have that clear, once again, let me just issue here. So to have a clear vision of the goal is very, very important. And to have a vision of the two paths that we talked about, how this, do I want to be on the bright path, or do I want to be in the smoky path? I mean, again, the words are so carefully chosen here. Dhumne, the smoke. What does smoke do? It fogs up the mirror, it fogs up the glass, it doesn't allow us to see through. So today we are leading a life which is a very foggy life. So do I want to be in this foggy life all the time? No, not really. I need to have a very clear vision, and I need to work towards it. So that is the thing. And so the last shloka, basically, Shri Krishna concludes it, where, he has basically given us really the flow chart, for the afterlife. So with this, we have the ability to get the best life for ourselves. And with this, it is also kind of a guiding thing for us. It's a guiding light. Now we can understand why I need to do good actions. And now I can also understand, by doing these good actions, how I can actually get a lot of merits of punyam from this. And once I get this punyam, I can also understand that this punyam can only take me to really high levels. But I will come down at some point to understand finally what my real goal is. Like they say, if you have to realize by yourself, knowing how much of vasanas you have and all that can happen only on the earth. Through a lot of good actions, you can keep going up. But if you don't understand, if we all don't have that ability to understand what this knowledge is trying to give us, we can never reach the ultimate thing. So in this last shloka, he now talks about how there are, it's almost like, imagine this balance, in this balance, you have the two pans. On one pan, you have different ways in which you can reach. And on the other pan, you have just one thing. And he talks about how this one thing that you have on this pan, that itself is more than enough. Not that the other things are not needed, they are needed. But if this knowledge, you get it, if we just get this knowledge, that knowledge alone will take you beyond. So that's what he's trying to say here. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva. Daneshu yat punya phalam pratishtam. Daneshu yat punya phalam pratishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. So he's saying from the study of the Vedas, Vedeshu Yagneshu. So Vedas, from the study of the Vedas, and from all the sacrifices, Yagnyas, because those days, people used to do a lot of the Yagnyas, right? Thinking that those Yagnyas will take them to Brahman. But actually the Yagnyas will only take you to the heavens, Swargaloka, in Kathopanishad. Right? He talks that there is a lot of references to it. Then tapasu cha eva, and from the performance of any tapas, fasting, and etc. And then daneshu yat punya phalam pratishtam, and also from charity, whatever fruit or merit is said to accrue from all of them. So these are the four things: from study of Vedas, then from yajnas, from tapas, and from dhanam. Okay. So that is all in one pan of the balance. Okay. Then, but beyond all this, he says, beyond all this, one has to know this knowledge of these two paths, the way he described what is the path of the sun and the path of the moon, Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. So he says one has to know this knowledge. That is very, very important. And yogi param sthanam upeti cha adyam. So becoming a yogi to the supreme abode, he goes surpassing the attainment of all the others. So one may do all that, but at the end of the day, one has to have this knowledge also. Very, very important. And the reason why I say, of course, somebody may say that, oh, if I have this knowledge, isn't that enough? Why do I have to do all the other things? The reason why we have to do the other things is mainly because that is the one which tends to purify our mind and allows me to understand this knowledge better. So that is the whole point of it, what he's trying to say here in the very last shloka of the 8th chapter. So so this one is, and that's the whole, all these merits, I can get it. But at the end of the day, that merits will also only take me to some point. I have to have the knowledge. So with that, actually, we conclude this 8th chapter. So just as a summary part of it, I thought I'll put all the shloka numbers and everything and what did we do in each one. So you can see, so in 1 and 2, basically, Arjuna had asked 6 questions. So those things were explained by Krishna in the verses 3 and 4. And then from 5, which we discussed quite a bit today, he says, just come to me. And then in 6, he says that how do you come there is only by remembering me. So remembering anything to that one. No, this is a yam yam bhavam. That shloka is number 6. And then 7th one, he says, remember tasmat sarveshu kalishu. That one I think is 7th. And then he gives that methods, that meditation. And then in 9, he talks about the, Kavin Puranam, Anushasitaram, that one. And then in 10, he talks about the aspect of, how that prayana kale, mansa achalena, how the mind has to be completely filled with devotion. That one he talks about in 9, in 10, that is. And then in 11, he talks about, this, there are 2 paths, the Krama Mukti, which is by stages. So in 11, he talks about the staged effect, and the continuation is actually in 12 and 13, where he talks about, with that Om iti Aksharam, that is the 13th verse. But prior to that, he talks about how, again, the focus has to be there, how our senses has to be controlled, and how, engage the control of the pranas, all that. That is 13. And then in 14th one, which again in chapter 9, we will be coming to this Ananya word will come there in chapter 9, So he says, Ananya Cheta Satatam Yomam Smarati Nityashaha Tasyaham Sulabha Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yoginaha. That is the fourth one, which is about really having that Ananya Bhakti, And he then this promise in 15th about how, how great Mahatmas have achieved this, as if to say that, Arjuna, so trust in me. That is really the truth, that's what he's trying to say. And then we have in the next set of verses, where you see that whole cosmic time cycle was described in all these verses from 16 to 22, about the Brahmaji's length and breadth of the day, and how, then describing about Brahmas, about what happens during sleep, how the unmanifest, we all go into this unmanifest, and then the unmanifest again gets manifested. And then from there, he describes what is that absolute unmanifest place. So those are the things where he talks about that 20, 21, etc. And 21, he finally says that absolute unmanifest is actually my state. So that's the state one has to reach up to. And then what Meena had mentioned, about how ultimately loving God, that is the only way, having holding on to him. And again, this holding on to him will come up in so many different, in this section, actually, in this section of 6th to 12th, especially the 12th verse, which is so beautifully about devotion. He will come to it more. And then from 23 onwards, which we just did, which is about the two paths. And finally, in 28, which we culminated with today, was really comparing the fruits of each of those two paths. One path is that absolute, that's, I said, the northern path, or the path of light, which is going, beyond everything. At some point, after we gain the knowledge, even the knowledge has to be given up in order to reach that. So again, there'll be more discussion of it in future chapters, but that is where we ended with.
Excellent, Sunita. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you with all your help.
You share this just with us somehow? Where can I look for? I took a picture.
No, I'll send you. I can send you this whole presentation and send it to you. Anybody who wants.
We can recap with just one sentence. We can recap. It was so nice. Excellent.
Yeah, especially
Thanks for the recap.
The glimpse, if you can share it, that will be great, Sunita.
I will do that. I'll put it into the WhatsApp.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do you have this for other chapters also?
Yes, for all chapters, I have this. All chapters, I always, the summary, I always put it as the shlokas, and then we do the...
This is your own formation. You only made this.
I'm putting them together from various sources also, I would say,
This
so
one sentence, one sentence is your own. Wow, very good.
Yeah, no, this, like I said, I have a couple of places where I look for this right kind of information. And if I find the good ones, I actually put that and do it. So I wanted to summarize, and that's why I started with the summary in 3 or 4 sentences, what this chapter is about. And I wanted to finish off with how each of these verses then talks about how it goes. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we will just chant all the 24 shlokas. It will go really fast, but we'll do it. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Ata Ashtamodhyayaha Arjuna Uvacha Kim Tad Brahma Kim Adhyatmam Kim Karma Purushottama Adhibhutam Cha Kim Proktam Adidaivam Kim Uchyate Adiyajña Katam Kotra Dehesmin Madhusudana Prayana Kale cha Katham Jneyosi Niyatatmabihi Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Svabhavodhyatma Uchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaraha Visarga karma sangitaha adhibhutam ksharo bhavaha purushashchadi daivatam adhiyajnyohame vatra dehe deha pritamvara Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati natsyatra samshayaha yam yam vapi smaran bhavam yajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha tasmat sarveshu kaleshu manusmara yudhya cha mayyarpitamano buddhihi mame vaishyasya samshayaha abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya paramam purusham divyam yati pathanuchintayan kavim puranam anushasitaram anoraniyam Anoraniyam samanusmaredyah sarvasya dhataram achintya rupam aditya varnam tamasaf parastat prayana kale manasachalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhuvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti Vishanti Yadyatayo Vitaragaha Yadichanto Brahmacharyam Charanti Tatte Padam Sangrahena Pravakshe Sarvadvarani Sanyamya Manohridi Nirudhya Mudhya Dhayatmanah Pranaha Asito Yoga Dharanam Om Ityekaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mam Anusmaran Yaf Prayati Tyajan Deham Sayati Paramam Gatim Ananya Cheta Satatam Yo Mam Smarati Nityashaha Tasyaham Sulabhah Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yoginaha Mamupetya Punarjanma Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam Napnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gataha abrahma bhuvana lokaha punaravritti norjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate sahasra yuga paryantam aharyad brahmano viduhu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha Avyaktavyaktayak sarvaha prabhavantyah ragame ratyagame praliyante tatreva vyakta samyake bhutagramasya evayam bhutva praliyate ratyagame vashaf partha prabhavatyah ragame parastasmatu bhavonyat Avyakto vyakta sanatanaha yassa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati Avyakto ityuktaha tamahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante taddhama paramam mama purushassa paraf partha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya yasyantasthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam yatra kale tvanavrittim avritin chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshabha Agnishjyotiraha shuklaha shanmasa uttarayanam tatra prayata gachanti brahma vido janaha Dhumo ratristatha krishnaha shanmasa dakshinayanam tatra chandramasam jyotihi yogi prapya nivartate shukla krishne gati hyete jagata shashvate mate ekaya yatyana vrittim anyaya vartate punaha naite shrutit partha janan yogi muhyati kaschana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pratishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanupaiti chadyam. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Akshara Brahma Yogo Nama Ashtamodhyaya. So, 8th chapter is about Akshara Brahma Yoga, so that is the main important thing here. And it is about all Brahma Vidya and it's Yoga Shastri, the way to live it. And this is Krishna Arjuna Samvade. Samvada means dialogue. It's a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. So we finish it.
You took us to a different world, Sunita.
It's all because of all the gurus, all because of Bhagwan, and all because of you that we've been able to complete the 8th chapter, for which I'm highly grateful. I'm especially grateful to Sridhar Ji, to Balaji Temple, for giving us this opportunity to really study this. As I said, there's so much of gratitude we have, for being able to study this. So we finish. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. And of course, I'm especially grateful to my parents and to my mother who always joins in. So and I think we're all grateful to our parents for giving us this birth and for us to be able to enjoy and, and study and learn and take us to the next birth. And next birth or to God, ultimately. Yeah.
I think you have to shut the recording.
I will do that.